Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh.
Hello, my name is Geronimo Vela, and I am Chiricahua Apache. And I will be your host for this film on a very, very important film about our Earth Mother and what the human species is doing to her. The title of this film is called The Human Effect. And in this film, you will see the beautiful, beautiful Earth Mother, but then you will also see the negativity that has been happening as a result of the human effect on our Earth Mother by the human species. We will also hear from a number of tribal elders and leaders in the community and get their take on all of human species finding that balance and that harmony where we can live together with the environment and with each other. But as you start to watch this film, and pay close attention, but I want to leave you with these words in mind. Mother is speaking. Are you listening? We've all seen and experienced the fruits of the industrial age, and with it has come rapid increases in excessive growth in almost everything, including overpopulation, contamination of every sort, and the destruction of our environment.
You know, we're all related to all things, and that's our peak anyway, and that's a way of knowing and believing that we share with a lot of tribes and indigenous people, that we are related to the plants, to the animals, to the rocks, to the cosmos, to the things of the earth, to the things below the earth. In fact, when we pray, those are the things that we pray about. So we're all related. And the other thing about this being all related is that, and about this way of knowing, is that as human beings, we're not above the plants, the animals, and the other things that we share this planet with. We share that. And so the important thing is, in our ways, is that we have to respect all things. We have to respect all things. Everything has a life. Even the inanimate things will have life, the rocks and that. So we've been taught by our elders that when we take something from the earth, whether it's a plant or whether it's an animal, whether we're going to use it for a ceremony or whether it's something you're going to eat, we're taught that you always make an offering. And an offering means that we acknowledge the spirit of that animal, of that plant, of that thing. And so in our offering, we're offering up a prayer. And we're also acknowledging the spirit of that plant and animal. And we're asking, it's sort of like forgiveness for having to take maybe their life in order for us to use that in our lives. So it's important to do that, and that's what the prayer is about. The other part is that the prayer and the offering is asking for continuation. If it's a particular animal, if you're harvesting a deer, for example, for food, you make that offering and you acknowledge the deer and all the other deer that are with us. Because the important thing is that all of us share this earth, this planet. And in fact, all of us share even more than that. We share the cosmos. And so each of us has a responsibility to ensure the continuation of all things. In fact, that's what ceremonies are about.
These beautiful snow-capped mountains in Colorado and the pure, clean water flowing from them are quickly disappearing as our planet continues to get warmer and warmer. Now, much of the southwest United States has been in an extreme drought for a number of years. Still, we continue to misuse and waste valuable water as if there is an unlimited supply of it. This fresh water we are seeing being pumped from the ground is being used for large pecan groves here in the desert Southwest, where there is extreme drought. Billions of gallons of fresh water are used in the processing of ores. Some examples of man's abuse of Earth Mother and the negative effects are the contaminated water from uranium mines, especially in Arizona and New Mexico, making much of the water unsafe to drink on the Navajo reservation. And the fracking for oil and gas across the nation is also causing water contamination, not to mention the possible cause for a multitude of recent earthquakes taking place at an unprecedented rate in the fracking areas such as Oklahoma.
Have you ever heard the buffalo cry as she searches the herd for her baby? Her lonesome wail echoes in the night, but the baby does not answer, and the buffalo, she cries again, and the buffalo, she cries again, cries again, she cries again.
In January 2014, chemicals used to clean coal leaked into a water supply in West Virginia, leaving 300,000 people without safe water to drink, cook with, and to bathe in. Later, analysis by U.S. Geological Survey researchers learned that the chemical spill traveled into Kentucky. Mount Everest, the world's highest mountain, is now nicknamed world's highest garbage dump because of an estimated 50 tons of garbage strewn along the route up the mountain. A recent heat wave in India with 120 plus degree temperatures has killed more than 1,100 people in just 3 days. A survey of about 5,000 beekeepers in the U.S. has found that they've lost about 42% of their colonies over just the past year, and about 1/3 of all plants or plant products people consume rely on bee pollination, and the list of the negative human effect on the planet goes on and on.
The money is what's important to man today. Everything like that. The money is the most important thing today. And that's what the corporations worry about. They just keep trying to grab it. The corporations keep wanting more, all the time. And it's about the white man wanting what he wants. It's about him grabbing what he can.
Water contamination is a major issue in the world today, and here in the United States, specifically in the Southwest, we have the water contamination from the uranium mines. I was working on a research project with a professor here at a university here in New Mexico, and where we went back to the indigenous ways of life and knowledge, and we used clay out of the ground to take away the uranium out of the water. And it gave us pure potable water so you could drink water again. So we need to pay attention to what's going on in our environment and the water contamination and everything, because companies will come in and all in the name of profit and promise jobs and more resources for the community. But in the long run, it destroys our environment, causes more pollution and water contamination. So we need to pay attention on what's going on around the world. Another great concern to all of us should be the fact that some of our iconic national parks, including Yellowstone, Great Smoky Mountains, Grand Canyon, and Mount Rainier, are facing air and water pollution, commercial development, as well as motorized disruption and destruction. And the air quality in Great Smoky Mountains National Park is now sometimes worse than smog-choked Los Angeles used to be, states the National Parks Conservation Association.
The white man, they want money. They don't care about the Navajo people out here that are working for them. They want the money. But we don't want the Mother Earth to be destroyed. That's our mother. She feeds us. Why do we have to destroy it? They're tearing Mother Earth, our soil, our water. To my right here, this is Canyon del Muerto, also known as Canyon of the Dead. The heart of the Navajo land is right here. This is Navajo Fortress. This is where the Long Walk really started by Kit Carson back in 1863. Kit Carson, he the one that came around, took my people to Bosco Pantando. Huelte, Huelte. That's why we call it the Long Walk. Huelte. It started from here, Navajo Fortress. That is how it was written in the canyon. And then also my people drove Kit Carson's soldiers on the canyon wall, on this side of the wall. To my right, they have horse-drawn soldiers with guns. Navajos on the ground being shot, but they had bows and arrows like this up to them. But they said when they came in this area, they came up on the rim, shooting down, shooting all the animals, burning all the trees, oyster trees, cornfields. But most of the story was never been written. It's in our heart. It's in our people's mind. The story that you read about the Bosco Pantando, Kit Carson, totally nothing. A lie, a lie, a lie. That's the white man's work, white man's work. Us Navajo, we talk among ourselves our own story. It was sad, sad, long walk.
When the time is right and the moon is bright, we will come to meet, riding the wind, like a clear blue sky, free from the storm. We will come to riding the wind, riding the wind.
Once, most of this continent looked as pristine, clean, and beautiful as these scenes you are seeing of Colorado, New Mexico. But now, places such as these are very few and rare. And even here in the West, cattle ranchers are polluting this peaceful and public land by running herds of grazing cattle on it for a very small fee at the taxpayer's expense, polluting many of the fresh, clear streams with the cattle's excrement. Our director's good friend was backpacking with him a number of years ago in Wyoming, and unknowingly drinking from one of the high mountain streams, he got Giardia, which almost killed him and still handicapped him for life, as he did not learn the cause of his sickness until a year after drinking the contaminated water caused by the cattle excrement. Giardia is a microorganism that attaches to our lower intestine, and if not caught within a couple of weeks, it can cause major health problems and even death. Cattle's carbon footprint on the land is well over 10 times what a wild animal such as an elk or deer leaves.
So as an Indigenous person, I had a challenge ahead of me because the curriculum was informed through a Western paradigm, and that Western paradigm is a paradigm of gross national product. It's a paradigm of hierarchical linearity, success. The measures of this paradigm are indeed measurable, and so it's not a paradigm that informs how to live in a good way on the earth, which is where I come from, and I think is a general understanding between many Native and Indigenous people.
We need to pay attention to and get back to the balance and harmony with the respect and responsibility to our environment, because just because you think it's animals out there in nature environment, there is still pollution and contamination going on. And then you'll always have developers come in and destroy the environment, all with the promise of providing jobs and revenue and resources to the local communities. We all know that does not happen. Based on a March 2015 story in Smithsonian Magazine, developer Confluence Partners LLC out of Scottsdale, Arizona, is proposing to build at the Grand Canyon a $500 million to $1.1 billion recreation and transport facility, featuring a 1.4-mile tramway, equipped with 8 passenger gondolas that would carry as many as 10,000 people a day down to the river confluence, with new roads, hotels, gift shops, restaurants, and other attractions. This site has been a cultural and sacred site for the Navajo, Hopi, and Zuni, as well as other tribes. And the Hopi still believe this site at the base of the canyon is where their spirits reside after death. If the development is achieved, what has forever been a paradise of silence and pristine nature will become a constant noise and light pollution, and the greatest threat to Grand Canyon National Park in all of its 96-year history. When President Teddy Roosevelt declared the Grand Canyon a national monument in 1908, he said, "Leave it as it is. You cannot improve on it. The ages have been at work on it, and man can only mar it." The developers always think that by bringing tourism, that they bring revenue and resources and money to the local community. But that doesn't work because it's at the expense of our environment, of our nature. And they bring in all this technology that instead of nurturing the environment, just destroys it. So why don't we pay attention to what's going on with government and other companies doing things to the environment? Pay attention, look up above in the sky and pay attention to what's really going on. For many years, our government has been involved in airplane spraying of chemicals, including aluminum and barium, into our atmosphere, leaving the air we breathe polluted with toxic chemtrails, in an attempt, they said, to slow global warming. Now, as of February 2015, the National Academy of Science has acknowledged that solar radiation management, or SRM, chemtrails might be too risky, states an AP report by Seth Lowenstein. Today, an extreme and unprecedented number of people are having major respiratory problems like never before. This is another deadly case of man's arrogance, ego, and feeling that he is superior to our Earth Mother by showing his contempt, misunderstanding, and disrespect for her, and thereby causing unprecedented pain and damage to all living things.
Earth Mother, she can only handle so much. And in the spiritual way of our people, we were taught to respect and honor Mother Earth because we have a phrase that says, Mitakuye Oyasin, which means all my relations. And when we say all my relations or Mitakuye Oyasin, we come from Mother Earth, all of us, each and every one of us. So Mother Earth is very important to take care of. If we don't take care of Mother Earth today, we're not going to have any future for our children tomorrow.
I like to think, and I have grandkids, that they'll have a world to live in where they'll be able to enjoy. But if we continue in the way that we have, that won't come around, that won't be. And this world has gotten so out of balance because of so-called progress that if we don't change and go back to the old tribal wisdom ways, we're doomed. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
So, how did things get so out of control? It might be wise to consider this. When first arriving on these shores, the invading Europeans, by misuse of their Christianity, felt they could do to the savages of the Americas as they saw fit, because it was ordained by God that they conquer a people and their land from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean, and they called it Manifest Destiny.
The folks from Europe brought a religion with them that they practiced once a week in church, and they actually brought a religion with them that they themselves did not practice. This is the central problem that we have as indigenous peoples with the whites that came over, is that even though that some of the ideas of their religion were sound, we find that they didn't practice those ideas. Even though we have the fundamental differences, we still have the same God. We call him in Lakota Tonkasha, Wakan Tonka. The Christians call him Jehovah, Yahweh, Jesus. We belong to the earth and that we come from the earth. We don't have a concept of ownership, nor do we have a concept of dominion. We have a responsibility to the earth, not a dominion over the earth.
Pope Alexander VI in 1493 laid down the basic Christian attitude toward the New World when he issued his Intra Cetera. From this point forward, Europeans had permission from the highest religious leader to conquer and do as they pleased with Earth Mother and her inhabitants in the Americas by use of their Christian doctrines. The result for the original natives was colonization, reservations, and mass extermination. And some examples of this were the Wounded Knee Massacre, Sand Creek Massacre, and many, many more. Some call it a Holocaust, and it has been said that Hitler got his Holocaust idea from the white man's massacre of Native Americans. One of history's most violent acts of Indian slaughter was carried out in the early 1500s by the Spaniard Panfilo de Narvaez. As governor of Cuba, he sat on his horse and watched his men slaughter 2,500 Taino Indians who were bringing the Spaniards food.
My brother, I do not understand. You promised peace and gave your hand. You took the grass and gave me sand. Why, my brother? Because our worship was not the same, and I called our God by a different name. My religion you have called profane. Why, my brother? Sickness you brought from foreign shores, and laid them kindly at my door. My sons and daughters are no more. Why, my brother? The buffalo that roam our land, once as numerous as grains of sand, I now can number on one hand. Why, my brother? My bones now feel the winter's chill, as I'm gazing down from atop the hill. Tell me if you will, why, my brother?
We all know the history of the Eurocentric whites and Native Americans. With over 400 Indian treaties signed, the U.S. government has not kept one. Yet it has spent over $1 trillion in wars across the globe and justifying it as commitment keeping. While here, Indians have been forced to live as whites or be annihilated. There are non-indigenous people that choose to believe the Native American was also an immigrant from Asia, and thereby have no more rights to the land than invading Europeans. And for their case, they use the Bering Strait land bridge theory, which says the Native Americans arrived here about 12,000 years ago. But Native Americans have opposed the Bering Strait immigration doctrine because it does not reflect any of their memories or traditions passed down by their ancestors over many generations, by way of their oral history, which says that they were always here and came forth from this earth.
We're consuming too many things and not letting other things continue. So we know now that there are plants, there are insects, there are animals, there are things that are part of our environment that are not there anymore. And we have stories in our tribe that sometimes those things can be the little things. The salamander is so important. When we made our agreement to do our part, and originally a lot of the other animals and that may have, the stories, they come and laugh at the salamander. Well, you're just puny, you're just, you don't have much to add. But in the story, the salamander then said, okay, well, I'll show you. And so he created the big flood. And so the animals taught us that, well, we better acknowledge this guy, this small thing. It's important. So we have stories about these things that help us to acknowledge things. We as Piikani are concerned as some of our homelands in Canada and Montana. There's some mountains up there, there's some glaciers that have been there for, a long, long time, maybe 1 million years. And even in this society, we were told that they're only going to move about an inch a year or even less. So they're going to be around for thousands of more years. Guess what? Some of those are gone. It's getting scary, it's getting fearful. there isn't any more time to talk about this. This is the time of doing. This is the time of taking responsibility.
These images of Chaco Canyon ruins in northern New Mexico are of a Pueblo people that dates back to the mid-800s, and their Chacoan culture lasted more than 300 years. These buildings were placed within a landscape surrounded by sacred mountains, mesas, and shrines that still have deep spiritual meaning for their descendants. It would be very inaccurate for anyone to call a people that built such magnificent structures such as these savages. Some of these great houses were multiple stories high, and they contained hundreds of rooms. Pueblo descendants say that Chaco was a special gathering place where many peoples and clans converged to share their ceremonies, traditions, and knowledge. Many Southwest Indians of today look upon Chaco as a spiritual place to be honored and respected, exemplified by this family.
I feel like Mother Earth is being abused for so long. If we don't continue to educate our children, educate ourselves as well, and stay connected to what was given to us, it helps us stay spiritually grounded when we stay close to these ways. Practicing what we believe, using our medicine is what keeps us strong and keeps us going. And a lot of people don't understand that. And a lot of people kind of take life for granted. Regardless of what tribe we're from, we all stay connected through prayer, through the 4 sacred mountains, through our corn pollen, our sage. Whatever medicine we decide to use, I feel like it helps us to stay on the path outside of these traditional ways. So being here today and visiting places like this, like Mesa Verde and Bandelier, it really help you get connected with what's going on around you. You don't realize how strong these spirits are until you're actually there. Being able to pray and feeling so privileged to be who we are, it's important to know that.
What we see here are the Mesa Verde cliff dwellings in southwest Colorado. The ancestral Pueblo people who lived here are also known as the Anasazi. From AD 550 and for over 700 years, they lived and flourished at Mesa Verde. On top of the mesa, they grew crops of corn, squash, and beans. They built check dams across draws to catch and hold rain and snow for irrigation. The living rooms in these dwellings averaged about 6 feet by 8 feet, enough space for 2 or 3 people. Rooms in the rear and on the upper levels were generally used for storing crops. The building material for these structures was sandstone blocks about the size of a loaf of bread, and they used dirt and water as mortar. This large village that we are seeing here had about 130 rooms and 8 kivas. You've just seen the Chaco Canyon ruins and the Mesa Verde cliff dwellings. And then you've also heard a mention of society has always labeled the Native Americans as savages, as primitive. If you look at that architecture and the way, like, how would they possibly be able to build that? There are average Americans today don't have the knowledge to even be able to do that now. So how can you possibly associate being primitive or savage to the Native Americans if they could develop this kind of architecture and places to live in? Not only, they also, in history, we have studied and discovered that they had an early irrigation system. So they would all gather together and they would all share their crops and water, and they would all help build the irrigation so they could grow crops in there, so they would all get together for ceremonies, traditions, rituals, and share as a community to help each other and to survive and thrive. Where might we be today if the white man who first invaded this land had chosen to embrace their simplicity, mystery, and wisdom, and to respect, honor, live in harmony with, and attempt to emulate indigenous people such as these, instead of wanting to conquer, Christianize, and annihilate them? Now it appears that the God of the masses is fear and money. And even though we all should know that the one true Creator God is spirit, and not a gray-bearded white man, as seen here at the Vatican in Rome, Italy, on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. This is a perfect example of religious corruption throughout history. But perhaps there is hope for the Catholic religion with the choosing of the new Pope Francis. He says that the earth, our home, is beginning to look more and more like an immense pile of filth. In regards to the environment, he said, a revolution is needed to combat climate change. Other glimmers of hope are recent meetings President Obama has had with Native American youth groups and tribal leaders, and the global spiritual work of Chief Arvil Looking Horse. Many of us may have never given much thought about where our food comes from, but the great majority of the food produced in the United States comes from factory farms, known as CAFOs, Concentrated Animal Feeding Operations. And for them, they put profit above all else. This is another prime example of the human effect on our planet. When one raises tens of thousands of animals under one roof, you get a lot of manure, and this has become one of the most polluting substances in this country. This manure is periodically pumped out of lagoons and sprayed on fields. Roughly 29 million pounds of antibiotics, or about 80% of our nation's antibiotics use in total, are added to animal feed every year to speed livestock growth, and we consume the meat that has the antibiotics. The lagoons that store the manure emits hydrogen sulfide, which can cause symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, severe diarrhea, as well as headaches. The National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health has deemed hydrogen sulfide to be a leading cause of death in the workplace. The EPA reports that the waste generated by animal agriculture has polluted over 35,000 miles of river in 22 states, and the EPA states that this animal waste is the leading contributor to identified water quality impairments in our nation's rivers, streams, lakes, ponds, and reservoirs. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, nearly 10 billion animals are raised and killed for food each year in the U.S., and the feed for them is considerably more than feeding the entire planet. 2,400 gallons of water is needed to produce 1 pound of meat, yet only 25 gallons is needed to produce 1 pound of wheat. You just seen the dairy, cattle herds, and all with their producing mass amounts of waste that go into our waters and our fields and our crops and cause contamination, and we're all eating that. And it's a mass consumption of resources for all of us just to have food. But then ask yourself this, why is there so much hunger and poverty here, even in our own backyard? This is the San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation in eastern Arizona, and it's typical of many of the reservations in the U.S. today, and a far cry from the grand structures that their ancient ancestors of Chaco Canyon and Mesa Verde built. It is a very sad commentary on this country that many of our First Nations people that live here on reservations are doing so in conditions that are comparable to poor people in third world countries. Yet too many U.S. citizens are completely unaware of this. And as the saying goes, out of sight, out of mind. Here are examples of living conditions on other reservations. And you might ask, why don't they leave the reservation? I would say, well, would you leave your ancestral land and give up all rights you have to that land? It's better for us to live in tradition and our tribal ways than to leave our homeland and conform to the ways of destruction and greed in the Western world. For now we're relearning that less is more. A modest church stands on the San Carlos Reservation, and not far down the road in a white town, we see this elaborate and well-funded white man's church. Quite a contrast. While back on the reservation, there is still a white man's church-run mission school for Apache children. Are we still attempting to make them live as whites? And I will ask you this, yes, are we? I think we are. And all at the cost of our traditions and ancestral lands. And all for what? All in the name of profit. Recently, Senator John McCain from Arizona, by use of the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, is involved in a land trade, giving 2,400 acres of the Tonto National Forest in Arizona, which is cherished ancestral homeland to Apache natives, to a British-Australian mining company with plans to mine copper. If allowed to do so, it could cut a hole into Earth Mother 2 miles wide and 1,000 feet deep, and negatively affect the water supply for a large population of Arizona.
This amazing oak tree at Oak Flat in the Tonto National Forest campground in Arizona grows in only 3 other locations. It produces a sweet acorn, not the typical oak tree acorn, which is bitter. It takes this oak tree 100 years to first produce acorns. And the tree we are seeing here is possibly well over 1,000 years old. If Resolution Copper is allowed to proceed with an open pit mine, these magnificent trees here at Oak Flat will be gone forever, taking with them any medicinal properties and secrets they have acquired in the past 1,000 years.
Members of the San Carlos tribe and their supporters have done a cross-country journey to save this sacred Oak Flat site in Arizona. The journey ended at the White House in Washington, D.C. There are a lot of Native American tribes that are dealing with issues, and just like Oak Flats, where they're losing their ancestral lands, and all because of what? In the name of profit. Not for the profit for the people, but for the profit for the senators, the representatives, the U.S. government, and the corporations. We need to get back to taking care of our people. It's not about the profit. Profit does not help the local community. They're still living in poverty. So what are we going to do when they come over to take your land? Are you going to stand up and have a voice? I sure hope you do. must realize that the greatest damage that has been done to our environment has been created by technology. Non-Indians within 2.5 centuries have virtually destroyed a whole continent by use of their machines, chemicals, pollutants, as well as other means, and all in the name of profit. We must all understand that man and his technology is not superior to Earth Mother. And it's also of great importance to understand that we must use technology to enhance our quality of life and nurture the environment, not to destroy the environment.
We need to change. We need to move forward. We need to, by moving forward, go back. What I mean by that is go back to the old ways of understanding and respecting and being in balance with Earth, being in balance with the four-legged and the winged and the trees and the grass. If we don't do that, if we don't learn to communicate, and we've lost that as well, to be able to communicate with the animals and the birds and even the trees, because they speak just as well as we do. Just because they don't speak our language doesn't mean they don't have one of their own.
Technology is a good thing. The thing is, right now, technology is being used to abuse and destroy our Earth Mother and our environment, and at the expense of our lives, of the entire human species, and all in the name of profit. So wake up and pay attention to what's going on around you and have a voice and speak up about it. Because if you don't, the corporations will continue to use their technology to abuse our Earth Mother at the expense of us, and all in the name of profit. We need to find the balance and the harmony where technology can work for us and still take care of our Earth Mother. And by doing so, we'll show the respect and responsibility we have for ourselves and for Earth Mother, and we can live a long and prosperous life. Today's Native American problems can never be solved by conformity to white culture, but by realizing that their problems are legal and not cultural. It appears that more and more Indian tribes are returning to their traditional ways, ceremonies, and rituals, and this could be their salvation.
Being close to nature is God, and that's that spiritual interconnectedness, and there isn't a way to separate that out, and as a Native person, I've never been able to separate that out. And so the Western paradigm, from my perspective, seemed somewhat shallow until I was able to add to my ability to understand that an indigenous thought process is an expansive thought process. It's not measurable because it's beyond that physical level. It's difficult to put a theory on it because there's numerous theories, and those theories are often informed from an epistemology of gross national product, how to achieve, how to be better, how to make more money, those kinds of things. And it's not informed from an indigenous thought process, which is about interconnection and interdependence. Being close to nature is God.
Non-Indigenous within 2.5 centuries have virtually destroyed a whole continent, leaving large areas of the United States now almost uninhabitable. And adding fuel to the fire, large rural areas are now becoming toxic waste dumps. It's imperative that we understand, with the continued abuse and disrespect for our mother, we are rapidly increasing our chances of mass elimination of humans from this planet. Mother is speaking. Are you listening?
Our children don't know or understand about Earth Mother. They need to understand that when we say Earth Mother is alive, they need to know that she is a living being, that she is our home, that she has a heartbeat, that heartbeat that comes forth through the drum, comes forth through dancing, comes forth through connecting with her. Teach them about Earth Mother. She is not just the earth, she is our mother, just as you mothers are their mothers. And one of the favorite songs that the children love when I do programs at the elementary school is, Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Mother, I feel you under my feet. Mother, I feel your heartbeat. Hey-ah, 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 hey-oh. Hey-ah, 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 hey-yo. Hey-ah, 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 hey-yo. Hey-ah, 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 hey-yo.
If more Native Americans will awaken and realize the spiritual gifts they possess, bequeathed from their tribal ancestors, then they have a great chance to recreate a type of society for themselves which can mystify, defy, as well as educate the rest of American society and the world.
World peace is inner peace. And when we sit with ourselves in a space of nature, all of this is very scientific, we still our minds, we sit quietly with the earth, we allow that vibration to move up from the earth, we allow our awareness to embrace our connection with the cosmos, and Demelosan Gumtanu, all our relatives from the stars, because many of us come from many different places, many different star systems. Our legend stories tell us about this, and we're here on this earth today, and this earth is alive. It's a live being, and this earth takes care of us. It provides everything that we need, and it's time that we recognize that and honor the earth as a living being, a living, breathing being.
It's of great importance to understand that man and his technology are not superior to Earth Mother. And it is also of great importance to understand that we must use technology to enhance our quality of life and nurture the environment, not to destroy it. Ever present now on our planet are tsunamis, earthquakes like never before, volcanic eruptions, unprecedented blizzards and extreme heat waves, polar ice caps melting at an alarming rate, and still the majority of mankind continues on with business as usual, with excessive consumption of natural resources, massive waste, and 8.8 million tons of plastic ending up in the oceans every year.
If we want anything to change in this earth, it's up to us individually. Change comes from within. It's not somebody else doing it. So as I make the decision to respect things, as I make the decision to take care of the earth, as I make the decision to recycle, then my family recycles, my extended family recycles, my community recycles, our tribe recycles, other groups. So it takes all of us. Many of us say, well, let those others do that. Change got to come from us. It's our responsibility.
Suzanne Michaels and her co-workers in Las Cruces, New Mexico, are setting an excellent example for all of us to follow, showing how each of us can do our part to recycle and be better stewards of this planet.
And most people don't understand that a landfill is permanent waste storage. Everything that goes in here, the organics will decompose over time, but everything that goes in here will stay in here. If someone dug up this landfill a million years from now, they would find everything that came through our society. So our focus is on diverting absolutely as much as possible. It's a glimmer of hope for the planet to understand how important it is to recycle. People are waking up to how important it is to recycle and keep things out of the landfill. We do classic recyclables, which are single stream recyclables, the plastics, the metals, the papers, the newspapers, the cardboard. We also collect electronics. We collect household hazardous waste to keep it out of the landfill. We do everything possible to be sure that the least amount goes into Corralitos Regional Landfill and that we're able to recycle everything that we possibly can. One of the big reasons for landfills is to protect groundwater. In the early 90s, the EPA came out with the ruling that all cells that are developed, you're looking at a 9-acre cell, must be lined to protect groundwater. Once upon a time, counties used to come out and scrape a trench in the earth and people would put their trash in the dump. This is a lined landfill, highly regulated, highly engineered to be sure that everything is managed exactly right and there is no groundwater contamination. The South Central Solid Waste Authority, serving the cities and county in southern New Mexico, is absolutely a leader in the state and I believe nationwide as far as encouraging people to recycle, bringing in out-of-the-box thinking to provide opportunities for our residents to recycle, getting information into the community so that they know about it over and over again. We work with our local newspapers to publish regular articles 2 every other week talking about different recycling opportunities, illegal dumping cleanups, everything we can to protect Mother Earth. The Roadrunner has become an icon of recycling in the Las Cruces area. People stop here to take pictures of it. It is huge. Artist Olin Kalk, this was his brainchild. He recently refurbished it and put it back up on top of the boulder to protect it because people were taking mementos from it. The breast of the bird is made from recycled running shoes. He has all sorts of metal that is used in it. When we get some close shots, you'll be able to see the tiny, tiny little metal elements that he put in there. You can't see it, but the heart of the bird is a pair of ruby running shoes that are suspended inside where the bird's heart would be. And the thought was there's no place like home. The kids learn the culture of recycling at school, and then they take that message home to their parents because they're happy to turn around and teach them something. So they're like, Mom, that's recyclable. Why aren't we recycling it? They're giving the message at home. The kids are a huge glimmer of hope. Moving forward, we're planning to work with 2 additional school districts in the coming years because it is the way to get the message out. It's sort of like seatbelts. That message was targeted at kids in the 1950s to teach people to start wearing their seatbelts. Today, nobody gets in a car without putting on their seatbelt, and it started with targeting the children to get this good message out. Glimmer of hope, working with kids. Recycle, recycle, recycle. They learn it at school, and then they take the message home to their parents.
We have just seen some footage of beautiful Earth Mother and our environment and all our relations with the animals and the trees and the rivers. And look at the purity of our Earth environment. We've also seen examples of the negative things that have happened to our environment. Hence the film title, The Human Effect. We've also heard from tribal elders and leaders in the community on their insight on how we can find that balance with our environment, that harmony, to get back that respect and responsibility that we all have toward the environment.
The planet is out of balance and harmony, and especially the people on the planet are out of balance and harmony. And dealing with indigenous people of this country for most of my adult life, I realized that they're the only group of people that I've been around traditionally has maintained an honor and respect for Earth Mother. And so with that said, I decided to do this film, The Human Effect. And I think it's very, very important for everyone that sees this film to realize that we are out of balance, we are out of harmony within our environment as well as within all living things on the planet. So hopefully there can be some things learned from what the indigenous people in this film are talking about and others that can help us all to get back on the right track of harmony and balance within our lives. Thank you.
One earth, one heart, with one voice we cry out. Earth Mother, open your arms, forgive the hurt, forgive the harm. The eagle soars above the land, sees the scars caused by man. Lone wolf high upon a ridge howls out to the Great Spirit. One earth, one heart, with one voice we cry out. Earth Mother, open your arms, forgive the hurt, forgive the harm. The owl looks out on Muerta Canyon, her spirit strangely silent now. Greed divides these sacred lands with broken treaties and empty hands. These paths, they know our blood and tears. Tribal lands we can't let disappear like coyotes in the night. Man leaves nothing, he has no right. One earth, one heart, with one voice we cry out. Earth Mother, open your arms, forgive the hurt, forgive the harm. One earth, one heart, with one voice we cry out. Earth Mother, open your arms, forgive the hurt, forgive the harm. One earth, one heart, with one voice we cry out. One earth, one heart, with one voice we cry out.
Wait.